Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Youch Films Podcast, the show where we kick back and talk with some of the animation and film industry's most interesting minds. Today on the podcast, we have a very talented individual whose signature character voice you're bound to recognize. Please help me give a round of applause for Mr. Matt Hill.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I had a question. Why is some parts of snow yellow?
Oh well, Ed, I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid that question.
Just like orange. Is that like Orange Crush?
Yes, exactly. It's like
That's
orange
exactly
crush.
what it is.
So that
it
must
felt-
be what Eddie always says. Just eat the yellow snow, Ed.
Oh wow, yeah. Eddie never was never was a good friend, was he? Matt is a longtime character and voice actor, having appeared in dozens of animated shows and even a few live-action shows, such as The X-Files. He's appeared in Ed, and Eddy, Powerpuff Girls Z, My Little Pony, and having done puppeteering work in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 as Raphael. Is that correct, Matt?
I think you got it right there, brother.
Yeah, okay. I don't watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is stuff I had to find. But I have been watching Ed and Eddy for over the past decade, so I think I'm quite refreshed on that. And I have seen Powerpuff Girls Z, so
I still can't believe this show's over almost 20 years old.
I know.
Right?
The same thing. I got somebody sent me a notification of it saying, 20 years ago today, Ed, and Eddy, debuted on Cartoon Network. I was like, what?
You're an old man, Matt.
I feel very old. But you know what I love though? It's like now it's just like, whereas like 10 years ago it was like you guys and everyone else, and then the other guys' kids, and now I guess eventually it'll be like kids, grandkids, and then when I'm 104,
Yeah.
Out of here back in the day.
Oh boy. So Matt, we have quite a bit to talk about in the next hour here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so just to go back to the very beginning, what gave you the acting bug? What influenced you at an early age?
Oh, great question there, sir. Well, for me, actually, there was a show when I was a young child. It was called Donnie Marie Osmond, right? It was this like Friday, I think it was like Friday nights when I was a kid.
Okay.
It was this like singing, dancing, and acting kind of show. And, I remember watching that. And then the Partridge Family was on, and it was like this family that had a band and they traveled around and they played. And, it was kind of like these little bits of inspiration that I remember, kind of really hit me going like, wow, a life in, performing would be such a cool thing, and, down, I guess when I was about 7 or 8, we, I lived on a cul-de-sac, as many of us do. And it had a light, and that light, shone down on the street. And I remember even with like the school, with the kids on my street, we used to just like have what we called like monkey hour, and we'd all just like literally do like tricks and pretend that we were on this show, and yeah, and it's so cool because that was really where so many things for me started, including like my life in running, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But so yeah, it was really, so that bug bit me, really early actually, and it was when I turned 13 when I remember that day. I'm like, okay, I'm 13 now. My life's half over. If you're gonna have a career in this acting thing, you better make it happen, Mr. Hill. And so what I called my first Oscar-worthy performance, I faked to my mom and dad that I was like too sick to go to school, and and like not a word of a lie. They literally the second they left the front door because they both had to work, I literally sprinted for the bus, and I took the bus downtown to what I call the big city of Vancouver, which had a burgeoning, film, television, and voiceover scene. And I'll never forget it because I was on a mission, and I'd heard that there was this agency called Jerry Lodge Talent that were taking on new actors for the up and coming the business that was happening here in Canada. And picture this 13-year-old kid, I'm climbing this 3 stories to this 3-story walk up, and back then you could smoke in buildings, and so at the top step there's like this wall of smoke just hit me, and I hear this coughing on the other side. I'm like And this smoky voice going, what do you want? And I'm like, hey, my name's Matt, and I'm here to be an actor. And this voice, I'll never forget it. She was like Marge Simpson, and it was turned out to be like, she ended up, taking a chance on me and, becoming my first agent. And, her name was Dorothy Boyce, an ex-model from New York who'd opened up this agency. And, it was really cool because even then, right, she said, I don't know what it is about you, kid. You got no experience. But you got the heart of like a lion. And, you got this purity. You remind me of my other client, Michael Fox, and
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. It was like these sort of very early, I believe, sort of like local heroes that went like, you've got talent somewhere, but you got to get some experience. Right. And, so she paid for my first acting course because I had zero money. Just right away, I just said yes. What do I need to do? And she's like, okay, take a course, and so that you don't let me down, taking a chance on you. And so literally, I guess within about a month or two after finishing this learn to acting program, I booked my first gig, and I got paid to be Santa's lead elf at the Christmas display at the mall downtown. So. I'd made my whole life, and I got to pay her back, and so it really did set the tone for in all honesty, what really is now transpired over the last 30 years.
That is amazing.
The world needs more Dorothys.
You know what? You're so right, my friend. It's the one thing I wish that I would have done is tracked her down before she passed away, because I always wanted to tell her, because really, she changed my life. Right? She could have easily just said, you got no talent, kid, or you're too short, or you're too this or whatever. Right. But, she really did take a chance on me. And I've always been very, very incredibly humbled and grateful for that,
I mean, did you keep in contact? Did you keep in contact with her over the years before, though?
Well, I did, yeah. Like, she definitely knew, because I guess about 5 years after I joined the agency, she was ready to retire, and so she sold it to my next agent, Marie Morton, who bought the agency. So I still ended up being with the same agent and same agency, I guess, per se. So Dorothy, I know, got lots of updates from Marie, because I think it was, actually, it was right when I booked Ninja Turtles. I was so stoked because Marie had then retired by that point, and my agent Leonard, let her know, Maddie booked this big gig, because Turtles were they were I guess in a different way, but they were kind of as popular as the Beatles in some respects, right? Because they were, every kid from Kuala Lumpur to like say a town near you kind of knew who the Ninja Turtles were, right?
Yeah.
So it was neat because he updated her, and I remember getting a message back, saying, yep, Dorothy gives you the double thumbs up. She always figured, you just had that spark, and so in a way I got to, I think, sure that her taking a chance on me really paid off. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been with the same agency my whole career, which is kind of unheard of. There's, I think there's only like two of us in my agency that have been there the whole time. So it's
and how long is that?
Well, literally officially I'm celebrating like my 30th year
wow.
professionally this year. So it's cool. I feel very blessed.
Well, they seem to get you a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, they get me lots of stuff and things like that. Yep. Oh yeah. I'm actually putting in my contracts now. I have to have buttered toast and like a jawbreaker in my contract, or I just freak out.
And a big tub of gravy, right?
Absolutely, big tub of gravy.
Not to mention a whole bunch of quarters. It has to be paid in quarters.
A quarter an hour, right?
Exactly.
Well, I made a big error in my opening there. I completely forgot to introduce my co-host. Everyone joining me this evening is also fellow animation enthusiast Jacob Weil. Hi, Jacob,
hello.
And I'm sorry for
Jacob Weil, ladies and gentlemen. Woo!
Yes. Woo! Hey, hello, everybody.
Oh, the crowd's going crazy.
the crowd exhales loudly through their mouths.
well, Matt. So, saying the story of how you lived in a cul-de-sac and you loved to perform as a kid and everything, I'm sure that bled very well into Ed, and Eddy and that whole all the stories and everything, the writing.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, Ed and Eddy. I remember getting the call from my agent Gail, who's my voice agent, and said there's this project, and it's much like all the other ones, right? It didn't come in any other different way. Here's the audition sides, and we had to learn them, and then we went in and had the first audition, and that led to then a callback, and then that led to like another callback. And then by that point, usually in animation, especially, like 2 callbacks, and then you usually then say get the job, or it goes say to someone else. Well, with Ed and Eddy, Danny Antonucci, the creator of this brilliant show,
Mhm.
he just had it that he wasn't going to stop looking until he had the whole show. He had the whole thing. Very rarely did storyboards, like per se, in terms of like all the different ways of that traditional animation's done.
Mhm.
He was like a genius. It was all inside his head. So he knew there was a certain sound for each character that he knew he wasn't going to stop looking and putting different groupings of people together till he found it, right? So we even set a record in Vancouver. I think we had like 8 official callbacks, to the point where they had to, like, the union even called saying, well, you got to pay them like at least like $15 or something, for a callback. And so it whittled down to like, months later, we ended up going back, and then there was me and Sam and Tony who got put as a threesome. And then I think they had like 2 other guys that were kind of like being considered. So there might have been, say, like 5 of us still in the mix for the Eds part of it. And so literally that's all we did. We went into this like chain smoking like room where, Danny was just like furiously trying to figure out this, get these characters. And, we went in, and it was like the only way I can describe it, it was like going to battle every time. Cause like, he was so like adamant on like, like say it this way or say it that way or whatever. And, and then we go out, and then we get notes, and then we come back in. And I'll never forget, for Ed, for the voice of Ed, like I'm like, by that point, I was just so confused, going like, I don't know what he wants, right? And I remember, out of desperation, I tapped the microphone, so I kind of did like a do 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 do, and I went, oh, how do you get water from this thing here? And literally, I think like there was on the other side of the glass this pause, and I thought, oh man, I'm gonna get fired. Like, there's no way. I'm done. And literally, it was the opposite. He goes, "That's the voice. That's Ed. Just do that." Right? I'm like, oh, right? He's like, that. Just do that, right? And so it was kind of a joke, because for the next like year, for the first season, every time I would say like get out of character, they'd play that part of the audition, and it'd be this like, duk, 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 how do you get water from this thing here? And it would always get me back into being Ed, right? And and then as they say, like the next 8 seasons, and however many specials and that sort of stuff that we did, and it was quite a ride, gentlemen. It was it was the first time for me that I guess in a way it was the for me as an actor, it was a prelude to getting the gift a few years later, which I'll share later, hopefully with you guys. That it was then realizing the impacts that like something like a show like that actually had on so many kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
because I mean, with all due respect, it was the the highest rated Cartoon Network show in its time, which is kind of cool. It's a cool homage, I think, to the brilliance of the show, right?
Mhm.
That it is.
First show I've ever done it. We've never had pickups. Usually we get like tons of pickup sessions afterwards where, they have to fix lines, or they realize that the script kind of doesn't work. Maybe it's too long or it's too short. The only time we get pickups is if the network went, yeah, no, you can't say that because it kind of ensues something naughty, or it's just not. But you know what I mean? So they, it sometimes took us, and sometimes our vocal cords bled, and we'd bang our heads against the wall because we were in take number like 90. By the time we got released, Danny'd be like, well, if that's all the best you could do, all right, I guess we got it then, And that was a compliment.
Oh, jeez. Now, I actually have a question regarding the success of this. I mean, a while ago we actually interviewed Scott Underwood, one of the storyboarders of the show.
Scott Underwood is a good fella.
Yeah, and he actually mentioned that the show is never broadcast in Canada. Did you actually ever see the show?
No, I know. That's what's I know. I don't know. Best, highest rated show in Cartoon Network history for the time, and it still never got picked up in Canada. That's still I just go like, what?
I know that didn't make any sense to me either.
I know.
How is this possible?
I know. Who knows? I think
it's made in Canada and everything, and it's never broadcast.
I know. It's crazy. I know. That was kind of like the rounding joke. It's like we're the biggest thing outside of Canada, everywhere. Nobody knows what the heck it is.
But did you guys at least have a big, I guess, cast viewing of each episode, or
no?
Was it no?
No. I mean, really, in all honesty, it's funny because again, I think it was one of those things where it wasn't until say like Comic-Con, we're starting to call and say like, oh God, can we have the Eds and blah 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 blah, that when then we were like, oh, I think this is kind of a popular show because I wasn't personally, I wasn't really tech savvy, so I wasn't in that first generation of computers and the internet sort of like hanging out and like having that type of sort of instant feedback. All we ever got was, hey, yeah, the show's doing really great, guys. Nice work, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, okay, we just in that respect took it as we just were on a show that just kept getting picked up for more episodes, right?
Wow.
Which, but it's interesting because it wasn't until like 2008 when then I went on a run around North America on a tour that I co-created called Run for One Planet. That's when I really got the gift of meeting, we talked to over 50,000 kids in, 240 school presentations while running a marathon a day, right? It was in those moments when I'd have like, 1,500 kids and their teachers just freaking out that, Ed was now going to share with them this, this message that we were sharing on this run tour, it really was the catalyst, right? Because it was like that connection piece. Because they already felt like they knew me, right? Through some of these voices. So, big moments like that, right? I get the gift of that, like 5 years after we'd sort of like, finished recording the last, well, not 5, I guess we did finish. I think we did the last recording, I guess about a week before we left on the tour, but I remember leaving the studio for that last time going, wow, it was almost like, this, do you guys ever remember that show, Carol Burnett?
Yes, I do.
It's probably on the Retro Network. But at the end of the show, she'd walk off the stage, empty, and the lights would go fade to black. And I remember having that feeling on Ed and Eddy, when I left the studio for that last episode, because we knew we weren't going to do another season. And that, like I said, I was about to then run 11,000 miles, around North America. So I knew I was going to be on the road for a while. It was a very nostalgic moment because I knew I just was saying goodbye to a really big chapter in my life. Right.
Yeah.
Little did I know, like I said, the gift that I was going to then get, every step we took around North America, like I said, these kids allowing me to share the message, with them, through these cartoon characters. Right.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then what do some of these kids and teachers think when they find out that you are actually Ed? How do you break it to them?
Oh my God. Okay, well, let me give you one example. There was which happened kind of like in this kind of way a lot of the time. And it was actually one school we were doing pretty early on in the tour. We were running across the prairies in Canada. So we were probably just above sort of like, I don't know, maybe Ohio or like North Dakota. So we were running through Saskatchewan, right? And it was in middle school. So I don't know if you guys have ever, you remember being in middle school, we all thought we were like the coolest.
Yeah.
But, if the girl that is of your affection really thinks something's cool, you think that's cool too. And we were doing this presentation. So we're doing our Run for One Planet, talk with them, and these kids were eating us alive. They weren't listening. They were totally, and my partner in this whole thing, Steph, just out of desperation, she's like, hey, do you kids know who I get to run with every day? And and these kids who thought they were too cool for school were like, well, I don't know, like I think said a character from like Sesame Street or something. She goes, no, I get to run with a Ninja Turtle. And you want to know which one, right? And I remember like going, okay, I have to use Raph now, because I'd kind of shied away from using the cartoon characters. And like literally out of desperation, I'm like, yeah, hey, yo, Saskatoon Middle School. Who wants to save the planet with Matt and Steph and Raphael? And literally kind of was like this pregnant pause. And then collectively the whole school was like, what did he just say? Who? What? Who wants to save the planet? Anybody want to come up here and take the action challenge, yo? And then all of a sudden you see this light bulb go on, like, that's Raphael, right? And then it was on. We then had those kids eating out of our hands. We realized, right, that was the catalyst. It was like so then just out of, again, desperation and exploration, especially when we got into America, that was the same thing. I'd be Raphael, but then I'd be like, hello, Ohio high school, blah, blah, blah. And there'd be like 2,000 kids. And their teachers, literally, they were like screaming like young schoolgirls. They were just like, it was crazy. But again, this beautiful light bulb, I believe, of authenticity, right? Because I wasn't lying to them, because I had been part of this project and I'd been part of that character. And so it was such a great gift to be able to just like literally launch in, like that. I remember even one school that we did down in Houston, Texas, and we thought, it was a big school. Like, you all have big high schools down there. Like we were used to playing doing schools here, like a couple hundred kids, maybe 1,000 tops. But we went to this one in Houston, and it was called a charter. It's part of the charter schools.
Okay.
The mandate is to take these kids that live in low income neighborhoods, and their mandate is to keep them in school from kindergarten all the way through to, the 12th grade. Right. So they run them kind of military style in terms of, there's a code of conduct. It's really run like a tight ship, because as the teachers explained to us later, so that these kids learn to respect themselves, to respect others, but we thought, oh boy, this is going to suck, because nobody was giving us any, the kids weren't laughing, they weren't having fun, and I remember Steph going like, let's just get through this really quick, because we're going to be out of here pretty quick, right? And then so just out of chance, I busted into Raphael again, and I'll never forget it. The tallest, most like hugest African American teacher, who's probably about 7'6", the top corner, and he went from being like, kind of like stern, like Mike Tyson, to like he literally, like, I saw his body shudder. He was like, whoa, no way! Oh my god! No! Like a 10-year-old again. So that at the end of the presentation, all the kids, they would always come up, and I'd sign photos for them, and we'd have that. This guy was the last big kid in line, and when he got to us, he had a tear in his eye, and he's like, brother, I just want to say thank you, because what you're doing is like elevating these kids' lives. You have to understand that these kids have nothing, and you're coming in. You guys are from Canada, so these kids, one, have never met a Canadian, let alone Canadians that are running to their school. But then being able to be this voice of, then he shared saying, he grew up in a tough neighborhood. He grew up without a father, he said. And so, the Ninja Turtles were some of his favorite ways to connect with, sort of like, teaching kids about the power of brotherhood and spirit and trusting yourself, right? And so, like I say, with a tear in his eye, he was thanking me, and so we had this massive, I'm like 5'5.5". He's like I said, 7'10". We had this massive high five and a hug, and but there was these, thousands of moments like this where I realized every day I got to do these cartoons that I'd been gifted to be able to lend my energy, and in that respect, my vocal cords too, right?
Hi.
Wow.
That's
it's
it.
so it's like, you know, like I said, it's just this, it's almost like this constant feedback loop of going, oh, yes, this is so on point. This is so on purpose. It was so meant to be this way, you know?
That's incredible.
It is.
We've had quite a few voice actors on the show, and that's definitely all one thing they have in common is sharing their stories of how, you know, people have come up to them, whether it's, you know, on the street or at conventions, saying, or anywhere else really, saying, you know, how much they've changed their lives, and how big, you know, voice acting, of all things, voice acting, how that can save lives, really.
I know.
Eddie, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
You go ahead, man. You go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, like, it was not only this show, but a lot of others. But Ed and Eddie was definitely played a part in, like, me wanting to get into the business myself.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? It's like, and who would have known? Like, I would have never known that, and like that, you know, when you had, like, I was always super grateful for the life that I was able to live through my choice of say being an actor. And I knew it was affording me a great life in terms of, like, you know, I get to go, look what I get to do when I work. I get to go hang out with some of my most fun friends, and, you know, we get to laugh all day and make these funny voices. But then the deeper part of it for me, going out on going to conventions and going out on the Run for One Planet tour, where it was a daily feedback of going, no, your cartoons helped, along with lots of others, helped change my life. You know, and it's just like this constant, like, wow.
It's a very different kind of rewarding in a way.
Yeah,
like,
it is. You know, it was, you know, it's funny. It was like, I often, you know, I thought, like, I would say, like, to myself, like, Ed and Eddy, to be able to have that impact with say Ed, was the residuals that we didn't get. I got a billion times over, right? It was, like, you know what I mean? Because to me, it was such a rich, I believe, gift, right? To have that privilege to then, you know, like I said, then get to share this message for me, which I believe in with all my heart, you know, with all these kids and their parents and teachers, right? You know,
Absolutely.
You know, and I realize now it comes full circle, because in year 30, I love that I'm just as passionate to do voiceovers and cartoons as ever, because every time I then get to go and speak to kids and people about, you know, what it is that I do with Run for One Planet, it's the same thing. It's like a new generation of kids are like, like right now I just finished Dinotrux, you know, which we did, I guess, 78 episodes on Netflix. And, you know, it's the same thing. It's like now it's another generation of, like under, I guess the age group is sort of like, you know, 4 to 6 kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, go up and say, hey guys, how's it going, dudes? You know, and these kids are like, that's Tum-Tum. you know, so it just keeps repeating, right? It's a very cool thing, man.
Wow. So you did Ninja Turtles back, what's it, mid to late 90s, is that correct?
92. Well, 90 was rough in the movie, right? The third installment of what they call that classic first three, when they still put humans inside the green suits.
Mm-hmm.
And then in that, I don't know, I guess then Fox Kids did a live action version of it here in Vancouver. But then they asked me to do the voice of Raph for that one too. So Raph and I have had a long and illustrious time together.
Wow.
It's just kind of what's funny about those. You kind of more personally remind me of Mikey more than Raphael.
Yeah, Mikey.
So then it was around this same time that you did, or around that same time you did an episode of the X-Files, where you got to work with the two leads in the show. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, that was those two lovely human beings are just that. They was, again, another show that was gaining, huge popularity.
Mm-hmm.
That first inception of it, because I think mine was season 3.
I believe so.
I think it was season 3, but so it was popular. But I remember again really distinctly, how generous, both David and Jillian and Chris Carter, especially, the creator of it, they were not only to me, when we were doing it, you could tell they really cared about the show. It wasn't just like, oh, let's just focus everything on, Jillian and David and screw everybody else. Nobody else gets a good eye line. Nobody else gets well lit. It was the opposite. They really took a lot of time because everybody's contribution made up the whole, right?
Exactly. I think it's one of the reasons why the show turned out so well, just as a whole, not only aesthetically, but as a whole.
Totally agree with you. There was an energy around it, right? And
Yeah.
I guess 2 years after I did mine, I was literally at the airport here in Vancouver and saying goodbye to my relatives who'd been visiting from the UK. And I get a tap on my shoulder as I'm saying goodbye to them, and it's Chris Carter, right? And he's like, "Hey,
Wow.
you're Matt Hill, the guy. You were in my show, right?" And I was like, "Dude," and and it was so great. He's like, I just loved your episode. You were just so awesome to work with, and I was like, "You're Chris Carter."
It's sweet that he actually remembered you. It's like you only know in that one episode, and he still remembered you. That's pretty amazing.
I did put a little bit of. I had a sign that I wore for a long time, till he put a restraining order on me. Right? It just said, "Ask Chris Carter if he recognizes me." No, I'm just kidding.
Well, when I found out that you were going to be coming on the show, Matt, I am in the middle of watching the XFiles, and I think I was you were episode 13 or 14 in season, whatever season it was, season 2 or season 3, and I was on episode 8. So I thought, oh, I gotta race to see Matt in this episode. So I stayed up all night binge watching the XFiles and finally got to your episode.
What a guy! Thanks, dude.
Fresh Bones, I think that was called.
Yeah, Fresh Bones.
Yes, Fresh
only for it to pay off. You ending up in an unfortunate situation in a bathtub.
The interesting thing is that they could only actually get the shot when I was completely out of air. And I remember the director telling me, he's like, it's like, okay, so it's gonna feel really freaky, but you're gonna have to, with everything in you, when the last bubble leaves your nose, you'll hear action. Because that was their window to be able to actually get a usable take. Because until then, obviously, my nose was still clearing bubbles. So when I was completely out of oxygen and like for real, he's like, just see if you can hold your breath for like another, say 10, 15 seconds and we'll catch the, So yeah, that was interesting. I'm like, I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm gonna die.
I'm looking at that picture in IMDb, and that looks very uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, it was. But interestingly enough, to finish playing, Ninja Turtles, being in the turtle suit was like, acting like blind, deaf, and dumb.
Right.
My puppeteer, Noel who is he played Mr. He still is works with Sesame Street. He does the puppeteer for Snuffleupagus, and
okay.
I remember him, just being in my ear, going, Matt, go left. Go left, and then all of a sudden I hear Matt left, and then boom, I hit a wall or something, Stop left. Yeah, stop left.
So I'm sure many people are tuning in to watch to hear about Ed and Eddy. Not that we haven't already talked immensely about that, but what was your initial thought of Danny and the show as a whole, design wise and character wise, humor wise, just everything? What were your first thoughts?
Well, like I said, after the marathon route to get the green light on being on the show, I was just so excited because it was because it was a lot of fun. These characters were so, even though, like I said, we always knew that we definitely earned our money every episode because we truly did work our butts off, but we knew we could see the commitment that Danny had, and also all the writers and all the people who were part of AKA Cartoon here in Vancouver. That was the beauty of it too, because they were also really hands-on, with letting us come down and see what was going on. And, they would bring like, different drawings to the studio and show us, where we were at with it. And, so it was a very cool, I guess in a way, unique perspective on a show, right? Because as it gained its popularity, then, Danny would get asked, like Make a Wish, things like that. So all of a sudden we'd be asked to come down and hang out with a kid and or a family sometimes, that maybe is battling a terminal disease or coming back from something, so something like that. And so again, all these moments of like going, wow, what a gift we getting to do this, because look who we just got to meet today, who said that after like the 18th round of chemo, the only thing you wanted to watch was Ed and Eddy. It's just brings tears to your eyes, right? It's we kept getting these beautiful moments of real humanity, not just like, hey, nice job, that's great, great job. It's like, okay, that's awesome, it's nice to hear you're doing a nice job, but it's nice, it changes your life when you know that it's actually really helping somebody who's maybe having a good time right, even if it's just bringing a 22 minutes of absolutely unadulterated like guffawing and like, oh my god, these guys are so funny. It's great. Made my job a lot like just easy. And I just think too, it's such a unique, like even just the style of the way they did it. It's I just thought it was a really cool. I can see why it made such an impact from the time that it did. I think it hit at the right time.
I totally agree.
Give
Absolutely.
credit to Dan and the creative team, right? It's like we all, I guess this will make sense. Kind of like we were talking about with the XFiles, from the top down and then from the bottom up. Everybody was treated with respect. Everybody knew they had to work their butt off because that was the standard that Danny also set, being the the creator of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's stop. But he'd always be the last one to, or sorry, the first one to get there, and he'd be the last one to leave, right? So that also says a lot too.
And I think, wow, how much of a thrill it must have been to work on a show that was just so animated, because really Ed and Eddy shows, back then and even these days, they just get so stiff and just unanimated, where Ed and Eddy, characters were constantly moving, and not only because of the type of anime, the squiggle vision type of animation they did, but just their motions and gestures and sound effects and all these different things that just contributed to all this beautiful animation. That must have been wonderful, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, I remember when it premiered, it's actually funny. We did actually, as a cast, that remember now, we did go down to a restaurant downtown Vancouver, and a little cast and crew and everybody locally here. We all hosted a few beers and had a really good party, because again, it was a we knew everybody had worked really hard to do this thing, right? And so that was actually there was and there was some good Christmas parties and things like that, but it was it's funny, it wasn't really about that. It was more important, I think, those other moments that I was just talking about before. I think if you asked anybody that was connected with the show, it's those things that stick with people, right?
Absolutely.
What we got to do made an impact on another human being.
Were you saying something, Jacob?
Oh no, I was just listening to the story.
So then, what was it like working with Vincent and Tony? Did you guys record together, or was it solo?
Well, I had this clause in my contract that my trailer car had to be pulled up a little closer to the studio door than theirs, because we would we didn't really get along, the three Eds, very very well. So contrary to what everybody says, no, I'm never. No, I'm so kidding, you guys. I know. I'm like, what? You guys didn't like each other? they're like three of my closest brothers. Yeah, we went through everything.
Brothers and Ed.
But it
Brothers
really
and Eds.
It was like a brotherhood, though. It was hilarious because because Tony's personality is a lot like Eddy, and mine's, I guess, interestingly enough, a lot like Ed's. And Sam, if I stood too close to him in the studio, he was like, "Oh, please, germs." So we'd always have a little spray bottle, and and so Eddy, Tony would pick up on that, and he would just like literally engulf Sam. He'd lick the side of his face.
Talk about method act. That's
Oh,
method,
no.
method acting.
Watching this happen, a lot of the time, especially Tony and Sammy, for some reason, they just get into this, like that. Something like that would happen, and Sammy be like, "Oh, stop, please!" I'm thinking like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is exactly why Danny brought the three of us in that respect, as the Eds, and then every once in a while." We'd get the gift of getting to do, say, a recording with the whole cast. Holy moly, that was like, that was like Christmas came of like Christmas at the Crazy House. It was, imagine being in the studio with all the rest of the characters. It was just totally like brilliant.
And
Wow.
while we're on this subject, I do have a question. What was the most fun episode to record that you can remember?
Oh God.
There were so many.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay. Maybe I should rephrase that. Well, like, what was the most memorable one to record?
That was me thinking.
Sorry, I'm not trying to put pressure on you or anything.
Yeah. I don't want to sound cheesy and say they were all my favorite, but they, because obviously when some, I really enjoyed. I don't remember the actual episode, but I do remember the scene when it was the first time that I ever did. I can't remember what the lead-in line was, but then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, kick my feet and kick my feet and kick my feet." And I have no idea what episode that was from, but I just thought, oh my God, I just got to say that about like 30 times. That was so fun.
Or what about dig a hole, dig a hole?
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. And so yeah. I mean, it's I don't. I wouldn't want to fib and say, oh well, episode blah blah blah, but but I think it was lots of moments like that, right? That I realized, oh my God, but actually, okay, I do. Okay, this is the truth. Probably, if you were gonna say like episode or can I say special? Because the Christmas special for me was probably one of the funnest that I had doing Ed, because Christmas is for me personally is just one of my favorite. It's my favorite season of the year. So to be able to get to do an Ed and Eddy Christmas special was like totally wicked. This when I break in through the front door and I crash through the wall and I gotta get the milk and gravy cakes all ready for Santa. To this day I love that one. Yeah. So yes, there you go. Did I make the time cut off?
Did they answer your question, Jacob?
Yes, I mean, yes. I was just wondering. I always like to figure out like what these people's fondest moments were beyond all that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty. I was like, I think I just figured it's the pirate. It sounds like the pirate episode to kick my feet, but.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think it was the pirate episode, wasn't it? Yeah.
So,
but as far as specials go, I said I think the Halloween and Christmas specials are my favorites.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that Halloween special is mostly all about Ed and his manias.
Oh yeah, what was it? Something molten mutex or whatever the heck it was. It was just like
the mutant Swedish meatballs.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah. So Matt, tell me, what does your family think about you voicing all these characters, being the voice of Ed? How do they deal with it?
That's a great question. It's wild. I think they realized actually it's funny. The first time that they watched Ed and Eddy, I think they were a bit confused.
That's a good response, I guess.
It's very fitting.
Well, yeah, they were not confused because, well, one, they didn't watch, they didn't watch cartoons or whatever. And I remember my brother going like, "You get paid to do that? Wow!" I picked it up. Yeah. So I think in a way it was like another way of going like, wow, you're doing some cool stuff. I don't understand it quite yet, but wow, you got paid how much to do, and then when my mom and my dad and then my brothers started in two separate trips came down to visit me doing Ninja Turtles in Oregon where we were filming. That's when I saw the light bulb go on for them, going like, wow, the kid's doing good. It was pretty cool. Like, it was a proud moment for me to be like, oh yeah, here's my trailer. Hey, it's got my name on it. And not that means anything, but for an actor to kind of bring their parents around and invite
that
their
would be a great feeling.
yeah, it was cool because I knew for me personally all the times that I had worked my butt off to try and get a part, and this one, it had worked out.
Oh, what was the reaction to finding out that you ditched school to do an audition?
It was worth it, right?
Say that again.
I was did they ever find out that you pretended to be sick?
Oh yeah, what's funny? They're both in heaven now, and I actually don't know if I ever. I'm gonna have to take that up with God because I don't know. I don't think I actually ever. That's so funny. Yeah, Mom, Dad, sorry.
Oh boy.
Whoops.
So not to fast forward, but totally intentionally to fast forward. You worked on another show that also included Sam Vincent, My Little Pony, which just totally blew up in the United States. I'm not sure if that was the same in Canada where you are, but what was, and we'll go back obviously because there's obviously a ton of stuff in between that show and Ed, Edd n Eddy. What was it like working on that, and then what was your reaction to just the incredible fandom that totally escalated after?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. No, you're right. It's. I mean, only it's more popular in America just because there's what, 36 million Canadians. There's 336 million Americans. So it's, by population, it's pretty popular. But definitely, same thing, right? It's like I tend to look at, like, for me personally, it's like I'm stoked to get another part, and so for me, they called me in to play Soren, who was actually modeled after the original creator's son, one of the first writers actually, who has autism, from what I was told. And so I thought that was really, again, it was sort of like I thought it was neat that part of it was based on, even if just the namesake was based on a real person. And I was hired because of, he's an extreme athlete pony, and I just come back from, running the 11,000 miles around, North America. So it was kind of cool. The director, Terry Klassen, who interestingly enough directed us in Ed, Edd n Eddy. So there was all these connections and tie-ins. He's like, oh yeah, Matty, he's your guy. So here I am, on this show as a, this new Wonderbolt that they'd had in that season. And so then, fast forward a couple months, and I get some calls from some different fan conventions who'd said, we're the bronies of, like Dallas, and come down to this one, come down to that one. And so I went to a few by myself, and then I went to a few as well with Mr. Sam. And it was, again, another, like, wow, these shows really impact people's lives, and then when, I guess, in a way, it's kind of like, I kind of looked at, like, the Brony Club as kind of like, it's a club for, well, one, people who are passionate about, say, this particular show and what it stands for, right? And it's I found that really, really cool because it was such an authentic passion for, say, these characters, right? And what the show, what it stands for. And, I guess in a way, no different than all the schools that we did on the Run for One Planet tour, and all these kids and teachers going like, oh my God, Ed changed my life. Raphael really helped me through a tough time. And, Tenderheart made me believe in love again, and so things like that. It was, but for this one, it wasn't a whole multitude of characters. It was like this one show. And, obviously for me, being Soren, and then Sam playing the character that he played, it was almost like fandom almost times 100, right? But still, I believe, for me personally, it wasn't blown out over the top or inauthentic. I thought, I talked to some really cool people. They just happened to really, really like this show, that I guess the same thing. It made them feel that they had a community with which to communicate with, to connect with, to, I guess in this respect, physically go and visit each other and go, be part of, say, like this fandom, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Really, it's kind of like a football. It's like going and watching your favorite football team, but it just happens to be a cartoon, right?
That's a very good way to put it, actually.
Because I don't think it's any different. It's like it doesn't matter because football. I mean, have you been to a football game lately? It gets crazy because I'm a huge sports fan, and so it can get nutty, and it's no different, right? In fact, I think sometimes some of the I think the Brony fans, I think may take a judgment sometimes early on when people don't understand the phenomenon. But my perspective was they're pretty much just a really decent group of human beings just trying to have a community that they love being part of, right?
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it.
Yeah.
So are you still doing the voice of Soren, or I'd imagine so, right? Because he's grown. I believe he's going to be, quite a popular character within the show.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, Mr. Soren, hopefully will show up in one of the Inceptions coming up soon. But last season I was slated to do one episode, but I'm not sure what happened. But it didn't end up happening, so I don't know. Not sure.
Well, that being said, let's go back after Eddy and Eddy. Well, wow, Eddy. Now that I think of it, that gap really isn't that big. Eddy and Eddy ended in 2008, I believe, right?
Yep.
And then My Little Pony was, I think, 2011, 2010.
Yeah, that's right. Well, because I was on the road for like almost a year and a half, right? So we left in May of 2008, and then got back May 2009. But then I was out of town. Yeah, so really, I think My Little Pony started 2011 for me.
Wow.
Episode. I don't think it was 2010. I don't think.
So in between you starting at Ed and Eddy and I guess up to present day, what you're doing now, what kind of stuff have you been dabbling in and doing voices for?
Well, like I said, I get to play Mr. Tun Tun Double T on this brilliant DreamWorks networks. It's a Netflix original, but produced by DreamWorks Animation, and it's called Dinotrux, and it by far as fun and elevating in so many ways. To play this amazingly loves life and wakes up every morning, and he's like this truck mixed with a dinosaur, right? So that's why they're the Dinotrux.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful show. It looks like each episode looks like a little feature film. It's absolutely brilliant. David Kidd and Ron Birch are the creators of it, and like I said, we just finished 78 episodes. I guess the early part of this year.
Holy moly!
Yeah, it was a big push to get them done. It was the first the first Netflix original animated show that they just said right out of the gate, this thing is amazing. So, like I said, we got picked up, right for all 78 right out of the gate. So,
and then which character do you play? I
play WTON, capital TON, Tun Tun. He's the Blue Trucks.
Oh, okay. Okay. I wasn't familiar with the show, so I looked it up online. I was trying to figure out which one you were here.
Did you ever record a lot of episodes in bulk?
Did we what?
I've heard some places that where I record several episodes at once. Did you ever have to do that?
No. We probably. I mean, usually. We might have recorded like 2 episodes. Yeah, I guess when we first started, I think we did. God, maybe 2 episodes in a day, and then we did it, sort of like for 2 weeks. We recorded. I think we got like the first 13 episodes done, sort of almost in like maybe like in about a month. So we recorded quite a bit because they just got it out. They wanted to get it going.
That's actually really impressive.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, no, it's like I said, I'm so proud of it, and It's just a wonderful project to be part of, and like again, just world class cast, and some of my closest peeps. It's quite an honor to get to do this.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
So, Dinotrux is current. You're still working on that.
Yeah, well, it's literally now officially we didn't get picked up after 78, so we just finished the 78th episode, and we just did our last pickup actually. So it's now Dinotrux is in the history books now, as they say. So now I'm just on Friday, being the start of the new year, everybody's got their new shows that they're casting for and stuff. So Friday was a big day of reading for a couple of big new projects. So stay tuned on those, ladies and gentlemen, because yeah, I got a good feeling. It's there's lots of fun right out of the gate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're just about nearing the end here. We have about 5 minutes. Jacob, did you have anything else you wanted to ask Matt?
Yeah, it's actually noticed you do quite a lot of anime dubbing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's something we didn't talk about. Anime dubbing. We've had at least 2 guests on the show who have specifically dubbed in anime for most of their careers.
Uh-huh.
What has that been like for you?
Oh, well, it's same thing. It's almost anime is such a different art form, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
animation, right? And so, again, the only constant for me is that it's still I get to use my voice, right? But instead of say being in the cast with and recording with say however many people are in the room for say Ed and Eddy, it was the 3 of us, or Dinotrux, it was like 6 or 8 of us. Anime is always it's you in the studio by yourself with the director and the engineer in the other side of the glass, and you hear 3 beeps, and make sure you get your acting done before you finish the 3 beeps, and and so it's a whole different kind of way. It's almost like finely tuning the art of painting fences is how I always look at it.
Right.
Paint within the lines, but make it brilliant.
Then you did dubbing for Powerpuff Girls Z, is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Which character were you?
I don't know.
And I think your most prolific ones were Gundam and Beyblade, right?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah. Sorry, I don't think I heard you. No, I didn't understand what you were saying. Yes, right now we're still doing Beyblade, and yeah, he's just a fiery, good old boy. We have a good time playing him, Rentaro. And then what's the other one we were doing?
Is he been?
I don't know. We were doing one last year, and I can't remember the name of it in this minute. Oh shoot, Beyblade. What was the other one? I can't remember. But yeah, that anime stuff. It's like I say, it's good fun. It keeps me gainfully employed. Puts food in the fridge. And it's servicing a whole different fan base in many ways. There doesn't seem to be a ton of crossover in it. Some animation fans like both, but definitely, I think if like you said, right, it's like bronies like bronies. They may not be into say Gundam Seed or Gundam or something, but you do never know. It's like sometimes, like when I get to say, do a talk, say at a leadership camp or something, which I often do, and I'll bust into some of these, characters, or I'll just show my animation demo, for instance. So it'll have all different, sort of like 1-minute cuts of the characters. Mm-hmm. And I'm always surprised at sometimes then some of the recognitions that some of the foreign students, because especially say like the Japanese anime, they're like, oh my God, Gundam Seed, wow, and they just like freak out, right? And so, it's like, oh, yep, it's popular in Japan, or it's popular over here, or whatever.
I mean, I just think it really shows how ranged and talented you are in that field.
Oh, well, thanks, man. Yeah, well, like I guess in a way, 30 years, you got to be doing something right. That's for sure. So,
Oh, well, Matt, I would like to thank you so much for coming on and joining us tonight. I'm sure our viewers are eternally grateful for your insights and stories that you've shared with us.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure and an honor. And like I said, I always say to the kids whenever we talk to them, and I say the same thing here. It's just from my feet all the way through my heart and my mouth part. Thank you for very much. And like always ask yourself, right? It's like, who are the people that have taken a chance on you? And what dreams maybe are your listeners still wanting to maybe fulfill in their life, right? Because it's like, say this, it's like all of us, right? We all have dreams. We all have we all want to make the world a better place, right? So it's that's where I get more and more excited every year, right? It's like, okay, another chance to keep contributing, right? And elevating the world.
And for many people, your cartoons do make the world a better place.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, my friend.
And it thrills me also just to there's still people like you out there who are trying their very best and using every ounce of their being to try and make the world a brighter place. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you for that, man.
So Matt, where can people find you these days on social media? Any platforms people can?
I hang out down at Starbucks down there on 4th Avenue. I'm on social media. Yeah, I mean, just friend me on Facebook, man. My name's Matt Hill, and my website's matthill.com. So, but it's Matt-Hill. So you got to put a space between Matt and Hill.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
all right. Well, you heard it here. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Jacob, I'd like to thank you also for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Jake.
It was a pleasure being here, guys. Thank you.
Wicked. As you're a good man.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year to you.
You too.
Happy New Year.
And now we end with a song?
Sure.
Merry New Year to... Oh, it's my birthday next week, so we can talk happy birthday to Matt. Happy birthday to Matt. Have a great day, fellas.
All right. To all our viewers, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.